Hello everyone, my name is Don and welcome to Castlevania not Circle of the Moon. Trust me, I am recording that. This is the Castlevania Dominus Collection, which holds all the Nintendo DS Castlevania games like Dawn of Sorrow, Order of Ecclesia, and Portrait of Ruin. And I'm not looking at any of those today. Instead, we're going to be looking at Haunted Castle Revisited. Oh, look at that kind of janky looking screen tearing. This is going to be interesting. I don't know what's funnier, the fact that the bride just fell over stiff as a board, or the fact that Simon is apparently Super Saiyan. What the hell? Anyway, here's Haunted Castle Revisited, which is kind of a interesting surprise from Konami. In fact, having the DS trilogy on modern consoles now is still a bit of a surprise to me. Now I could actually record those with ease and not have to do sorcery shit to my computer. But the Haunted Castle Revisited game, what can I say about this? It's Haunted Castle, but better. Way better than the arcade game from 1988. And as much as I love Castlevania 1 on the NES, I think this might be better than Castlevania 1. I don't know, I have not played this game nearly enough times like Castlevania 1 or 3 to give it a fair criticism. In fact, this was my very first playthrough. The footage you're seeing is my first playthrough. So yeah, this is a bit of a late Halloween trick or treat depending on what type of person you are. But for me, Castlevania is one of my favorite gaming franchises right next to Blaster Master and Metroid and Star Fox, so yeah, this is definitely a treat for me. There are some quality of life changes to the enemy balancing and the level design. For one thing, enemies don't kill you in 2 hits anymore. And that's awesome! In the old Haunted Castle playthrough I did all those years ago, I kept feeding quarters into the machine, quote-unquote machine. Here, I don't have to do that. Enemies do a respectable amount of damage depending on the enemy type. Some may do more, some may do less. And there are wall meats scattered throughout the stages. So there's that. You also don't die immediately if you fall into a pit. You do take a bit of damage, but you'll respawn on the nearest checkpoint. Well, not checkpoint, but nearest platform. I believe it's 2 or 4 hit points taken if you fall into a pit. So there is a bit of modern sensibility when it comes to platforming now. Yeah, first boss, Medusa. I forgot how the fight went in the arcade game, but I reckon it wasn't fair. Here it's a bit more sensible. It's challenging. Medusa could pretty much anti-air you if you get too close, but it's fun. Medusa's got her claws and her tail whips, but there's also an assortment of bats and snakes just roaming around the room. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? Oh shit, it's Medusa. Of course it's snakes. Nice, that was the first boss down and already better than the original in every single way. Original Haunted Castle, that is. And the game will just get better and better as we go through it. Now here's stage 2. Lullaby of the Devils. Now this stage does pick up in difficulty, but not quite as dramatically as in the original version. Like I mentioned before, Simon is not made of glass this go-around, so he can take more punishment, and he can survive bottomless pits if he has enough health. But there's also the candelabras and the floating candles, which were absent in the original Haunted Castle arcade for some reason, but they make a return here. You can break those for hearts, which is basically your ammunition for sub-weapons. The sub-weapon itself, which can either be a bomb, which is supposed to be holy water in this game, a boomerang, and an axe. But more importantly, probably the best thing you can get from these candelabras is going to be your upgraded whip. A time-based power-up which will extend the reach of your whip as well as the strength of it. However, if you get hit with the upgraded whip, you will lose the upgraded whip, so you have to be careful. So this power-up system does harken back to Castlevania The Adventure on Game Boy, except nowhere near as frustrating and annoying in that game because, holy crap, The whip in that game was just useless if it's downgraded too much. The standard whip here is honestly not that much less powerful than the upgraded whip in this game. I mean, it's one extra hit with the standard whip, and Simon attacks pretty quickly anyway, so it's not that big of a downgrade. So you may be thinking, can Simon whip in all 8 directions? No, he can only whip straight ahead. This is as basic as you can get. Even though there is a bit of air control to Simon this time around. Not quite as much as Castlevania 4 or Symphony of the Night, but I would say on the level of Bloodlines where you can change your facing when you're in midair. And you can also do that. A jump from a standstill, you can still kind of finagle your way back, but a full commission to your jump and you just go to where you're going, if you know what I mean. So it's a nice middle ground between Castlevania 1 and Castlevania 4, if that's the best way I can put it. This bright overhauls are something to comment on. Simon actually looks like Simon and not a person who's cosplaying as Simon who has the liquid shits for some reason. The walking animation from the original game was seriously, what the hell. But here everything looks as it should, everything looks menacing and chunkier. And I do mean chunkier and everything, including the wall meat, that freaking full course meal right there. On this particular screen we got Mudmen who go down in 2 shots. Even with the upgraded whip, which I do not have. Well, now I do. And they still don't go down in 1 shot. That's how tough the golems are, apparently. That bone dragon in the background is oddly foreboding and foreshadowing. And just like in the original Haunted Castle, we have to fight that guy too. But until then, we have to fight skeletons and bats over this cliffside, including the Mudmen. Don't forget the Mudmen. Never forget the Mudmen. I did not want the cross. Well, I can still beat the dragon with the cross, but the axe would have been better. Unfortunately, in this game, whenever you pick up a new weapon, the old weapon you previously have just disappears. No dropping to the floor with this one. Well, at least I got the axe back, but just something you need to know when playing Haunted Castle Revisited. It's not Rondo of Blood. It's not even Dracula X on Super Nintendo. The one good thing about Super Nintendo Dracula X is that the weapons just shuffled around, they didn't disappear. Anyway, here's the Bone Dragon. This guy is kind of annoying because he flies around in the air. And if you have any other sub-weapon other than the axe, then, well, good luck. You hit the dragon's head and then the dragon's head will swap sides, and you have to watch out for the fireballs that it likes to shoot out. A trick with the dragon that it took me a while to figure out is that you can actually walk through the body without getting harmed. So you can use that to your advantage. The only hitboxes that the dragon has that can actually hurt Simon are the head and the fireballs. Am I actually gonna get a no-hit run on this boss? Find out in the next couple of seconds on Castlevania Z. Oh, you cheating son of a bitch! I was so close! Welcome to Dracula's Castle. We are greeted with series staple enemies known as the Axe Armors. These guys will do their usual shtick of throwing their axes either head level or towards your knees. You also gotta remember that the axes serve as boomerangs, so they'll come right back. The Hunchbacks make their return as well, and they are nowhere near as difficult to deal with in Revisited. Their jumping patterns are more predictable here, and you can take them out in 1 to 2 shots. This game rules. I wasn't expecting a new Castlevania game to be this good, especially Classicvania. The only problem is that this game is not sold separately. You need to buy the Castlevania Dominus Collection in order to play this, which is not too terrible because you're getting 3 other really good Castlevania games plus the arcade version of this, which is alright, I guess. But there's no way to get this game on its own. So if you're looking to buy Haunted Castle Revisited on its own, then you can't. This part harkens back to Castlevania 4's Chandelier section, with slightly less jankiness. The platforming from that particular segment was it was definitely nail-biting, to put it lightly. Oh, look, they did the thing with the portrait and the tears, which is bloody, and the song is called Bloody Tears. Still not as blunt as Ian Flint's writing for Sonic comics, but that's besides the point. We got harpies. These witches are annoying. Oh, I missed the platform. The harpies do a really good job of staying the hell away from you and attacking at really odd angles. Ow! Oh, chandeliers suck when they fall right on top of you. Oh, what the hell is this? You got eyeballs that look like they're more from a Contra game than a Castlevania one. Damn it, again with the chandelier. I need health right now. I think there's a wall meat somewhere on the next screen. Hopefully I can survive that long to get to it. If this were the 1988 game, Simon would have been dead 10 times over. There would be no soul left to go to hell with. That's how dead Simon would have been. Please walk down the stairs. A harpy! I swear, every video game harpies are in, they are the most annoying enemies in that game. I'm sorry, they are. It doesn't matter if it's Castlevania or Shining Force or I think even Mega Man has some harpy robots. They all suck. Now where's my turkey? There it is, it came from the eyeball. Not my first choice on where I want my meat to come from, but beggars can't be choosers here. Oh, what is this? A bloodstained glass knight thing. This is one of the coolest bosses in the game and also one of the hardest. You have to read the boss's attacks. It has some pretty outrageous reach with its swords. This attack especially, I think you just have to walk in rhythm with the boss, but oh. Let's try that again, shall we? Another good thing about Haunted Castle Revisited is you don't have to restart the whole entire game or stage over if you fail. You start back at the previous checkpoint, and there are a lot of checkpoints in this game, pretty all over the place, so you're in good shape. Whenever he does that leap attack where he just jumps off screen and then jumps back down, that's your opportunity to strike. This particular attack, I still don't have any clue as to how to dodge it. The blue orb is going to be your target. I'm just gonna have to brute force this one. Oh, I actually love this boss, but I also hate it at the same time because he's hard. I almost got blue balled by the boss. Anyway, here's stage 4. Oh, the basement. Nothing good ever happens in the basement. It's more of a dungeon than an actual basement, but that's besides the point. You got these chunky mummies, and these are some thick boys right here. Look at them! They slowly clamber towards you, so you have plenty of opportunity to strike them. They take 3 hits to destroy. This stage has gotten a major overhaul compared to the original. For one thing, there are no random bombless pits at the boss. I still remember that, my Haunted Castle playthrough I did in 2021, that was some bullshit. I got knocked into a pit in that fight. And no, it wasn't even knocked back, it was knocked forward. I was knocked forward into the pit, like the laws of physics just died. But yeah, I wasn't even mad at the arcade game for the channel because, I mean, it's an arcade game, of course this shit's bound to happen. It's like playing R-Type, which I'm recording for the channel, as well as the like Ghosts and Goblins and the SNK Athena game for the arcades. It's brutal. They're supposed to take your money, but you don't really have to worry about nowadays. But you also have arcade games that are easier, like, say, Turtles. But then again, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles relies on 4 people wasting their money instead of 1, so I guess it pays off. Also games like Metal Slug where they're still difficult, but you also have another person playing at the same time, so that's more money in the machine. I wasn't around when arcades were a thing, except for maybe Sega Rally and Metal Slug, and I guess Soul Calibur was still a thing. Never got a chance to play Altered Beast in the arcades, Final Fight. Did manage to play an Outrun machine, but those were still everywhere back then. The Namco stuff, I may have played a Miss Pac-Man machine or 2, maybe even a Galaga machine, but then again, those were still everywhere. And they may still be a thing today. I mean, does Galaga really die? Even Tony Stark knows what Galaga is. Oh man, I wish I was playing some Galaga right now. Those were some fun times. Actually, what is y'all's favorite arcade game? I've never played this in the arcades myself, but I did play it on emulator. It's X-Men, the Konami X-Men game. I can't believe that never got a port. Here's the final stretch before the boss of this area. We still have a bunch of bats and mummies loose, so we gotta take care of them. Here's boss 4, the rock golem. You can now see where you need to hit this fool. And there's no longer a random bottomless pit behind the golem. Stupid fucking 1988 game. The golem's attacks are different. Instead of shooting these rock blast things, he shoots out a big shockwave that will go across the ground. The rest of the attacks are really just the golem punching the ground like it's having a temper tantrum or something. The way to hurt this thing is going to be the red orb, and the red orb moves around either from the forehead or to the chest. You can jump on the rock monster's hands in order to get to the forehead. When the boss gets to phase 2, it will add a couple of different attacks, like this one where it just shoots out more rocks, and that's it. Just rocks. You may notice that there's a bit of dust and debris falling from the ceiling. That's just an added effect, it doesn't hurt you. Even though it looks like there should be something dropping down, it's really just to psych you out. Sweet! Now we're on to the penultimate stage. This game is not really that long. Clock Tower Fear, a series staple that's in every Castlevania game since probably the first one. Every Castlevania game must have a clock tower stage of sorts. It's the law. It's like how every Castlevania game must have a brilliant soundtrack. Except for Harmony of Dissonance, for some reason that soundtrack is still kind of weak. I don't understand how that happened. The other two Game Boy Advance games had great soundtracks. Why is Harmony of Dissonance all weird with the soundtrack? That's the main reoccurring question I'm gonna ask myself whenever I get to Harmony of Dissonance for the channel. Cause you heard of bad games with great soundtracks. How about a great game with a bad soundtrack? That's a bizarre situation. Anyway, the Clock Tower stage is not really too long. Not compared to the other two stages, or the previous two stages. For one thing, the axe armors make a return, as well as the hunchbacks. These guys are not too difficult, you can just swipe them away. Oh, nice decoration in the background. I wonder who we're fighting as the boss. Ow, freaking ghost skeletons. You should be getting close to the boss, and this is a pretty interesting one in that, of course, it's going to be Frankenstein's monster, or the creature, but it's also Dr. Frankenstein himself. And he's dead. And random ass hunchbacks. You can swipe these guys away in one shot. But here's the gimmick with Frankenstein's monster. He'll sometimes go into an uncontrollable rage, and he'll charge across the screen. This took me a life in order to figure out, but whenever he does that uncontrollable rage charge across the screen thing, you have to hit Frankenstein, the professor. You have to do that in order to stop the monster in its tracks. And trust me, you cannot jump over Frankenstein's monster. You have to hit Frankenstein himself in order to stop him. But whenever Frankenstein's monster is not attacking like that, he'll just swipe with his chains. Yeah, that attack's a bit annoying too. And what you need to do here, and I've noticed that Frankenstein's monster's attacks are situational. When you're close to Frankenstein, he'll do that swiping of the chains attack, which is hard to dodge, but whenever you're far away from him, he'll do this ground pound attack, which will drop shrapnel from the ceilings. Believe it or not, the shrapnel is easier to dodge than the chains. So you want to be in a rhythm to where you can attack Frankenstein and his monster at the same time. Basically the middle of the screen, that's your safe spot. Alright, who's ready for the final showdown? Heart of Fire, the bridge. The bridge is out. There's no real peril to the bridge this time. You can fall down the hole and still be fine. I mean, -2 health bars, but you'll still be fine. The real threat of this stage is actually Dracula, who in the original game was one of the easier bosses. Which makes no sense because he's the final boss. And it was an arcade game. I guess Konami was looking at their Gradius series and thought, easy bosses, or easy final boss and hard-ass levels? Let's use that design philosophy for Castlevania. Ow. I only sprained my ankle. I'll be fine. I got a bride to rescue. The pain will go away when I get in bed with her. Okay, the bride thing. Was that always in Castlevania lore that Simon had a bride or a wife? Or is that something that Haunted Castle just pulled out of its ass? Even back then, Castlevania had fan fiction. Anyway, here's the final boss, Dracula. And in the original, it was just one form of this. Here, there's 2 forms. Dracula will spend the first phase teleporting across the room and throwing daggers at you. Some of the daggers will go straight for you, others will go in a more spread shot formation. So you have to dodge accordingly. And I'm pretty sure you can hit Dracula anywhere on his body. You don't have to aim for the head. Oh yeah, you can hit him anywhere. The reason why I wasn't hitting him was because he was still teleporting. But yeah, this phase, completely easy. The second and final phase, however, watch out. Watch out. Damn, that's a pretty brutal death animation. And that's a jump scare. Meat. I don't even know what you call this thing. Overlord Dracula? Yeah, he's difficult. Take 2 million. This fight is kind of similar to the Richter fight from Symphony of the Night in that you have to actually go for the orb and not the faces themselves. There's a floating orb overhead and you have to hit that a couple of times in order to take him out. In the meantime, you have to avoid Dracula's attacks, all of which really hurt. The hands hurt, the laser hurts, I think the head on the far right shoots bats. Oh yeah, they shoot bats. And they hurt too. Oh, everything hurts. Now, you can take the heads out, but they'll just respawn eventually. Just go for the orb. For the laser on the left side, you have to duck down. Whenever the right head shoots the bats, you have to jump over it. I'm not sure how you can avoid those hand attacks. That's crazy. The one attack that does the most damage, I cannot dodge efficiently, so yeah, that sucks. Anyway, we rescued the bride, no longer stiff as a board, and can we get a dramatic Castlevania pose? Yes! Dramatic Castlevania pose to close us out. Anyway, Haunted Castle Revisited is a great game. Highly recommend it. I also recommend the Dominus Collection too. I mean, come on, you're getting the DS Castlevania games. What more can you ask for? And you're getting this, which is a good revision on a stupid arcade game from the 80s. So, yeah, there's that. Oh, and there's also the arcade game from the 80s in this collection too, so, nah. Just play this game.